Welcome to today's episode. I'm going to be talking about reclaiming your power and the nervous system. The nervous system, you may have been hearing people talk about it more and more and more over the last number of years, and there is a really, really good reason for it. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the direct correlation between reclaiming your power and regulating your nervous system, which both of those things are incredibly important. In fact, they're critical if you want to create a life you love professionally and personally, to live that soul led, soul aligned life. Neither of those things are optional. They are actually the path to you actually creating everything that you want. Now, before I dive into today's episode, I would just ask, if you are enjoying the episodes, please subscribe, follow, comment. If you're on the podcast, follow, give a 5-star review if it aligns for you. I would really, really appreciate that. Okay. Reclaiming your power and nervous system. First of all, what I want to say is, before I dive into this, because there's a number of layers that I'm going to go through today. Power is a huge topic. So I'm only giving you like a really small piece of it. And the reason why I say that is because there are so, like, I can't even begin to tell you how important reclaiming your power is. And the world we've been living in, we've talked about empowerment for years. That's been around for years, but it barely scratches the surface. Like it really, really only just talks about it at such a really, really shallow level. And it is critically important, because reclaiming your power is all about you reclaiming your freedom, your sovereignty. And what reclaiming your power really is at its true core essence, I want this to really sit with you. And there's a lot of different angles I can come from this from. So this is what I'm telling you now is by no means the entirety of what power is about and what it actually is. But it is you recognizing that you are the master creator of your reality. That's huge. Okay, this world has taught all of us that life is just happening to us, right? It's where we were born, it's the hand we were given. And there's been some mindset work that's been talked about over the years. But really, we've not been taught that we are the master creators. We've heard all the great sages say, we are more powerful. You are more powerful than you could possibly ever realize. And that is true. That is true. And I don't even want to say every year that I do this work, it's literally every week that I do this work, I realize how much more true that is. And we have barely tapped, even like scratched the surface of our true power. The good news is we're moving in the direction. But I just want to say that this is not just a topic that's relevant right now. This is going to keep coming up. But when you recognize that you are the master creator of your reality, it changes the entire game. Now, recognizing that and fully embodying it and understanding that are two separate things, right? Now, what happens when you start to realize that you want something different in your life? When you realize, okay, I've maybe been living a life that I was supposed to live. I created an entire reality based on programming, conditioning, all those things, right? Which is how we were taught, all of us were. When you realize that you want something different, you want more, you're meant for more, and chances are there's been something that's been on your heart probably for quite a number of years. It's kind of like you're supposed to do something different, right? Now, what most people do is they look for the big thing. They look for, like, what is that one big step? What's the answer? I used to say we're all wanting like the scroll to like fall out of the sky with, this is your purpose. This is what you're supposed to do. Take these steps. Like, wouldn't that be amazing, right? But that's not how this works. And here's the thing, and you may have seen this in your own life, or you may have seen this with those around you. What often happens is that somebody sees that they want something better, they want something greater, and they take a big jump, they take a big leap. And then if they haven't reclaimed their power, if they haven't thereby also regulated their nervous system, okay, which those two are linked, what could happen is you can kind of crumble. You can fall apart because your system can't handle massive change. Now, I'm going to tell you why, okay? But that can often happen. And you may have seen this. We saw this a lot in like 2020, 2021, and 2022. We saw a lot of people leave corporate, which I was helping people do, right, at that time, because there was so many people who wanted to build soul aligned businesses, right? And that's amazing. but they hadn't done any kind of reclamation of their power. They hadn't done any nervous system regulation. And so that they either wouldn't make the leap, right? Because they didn't feel safe enough. Or I saw people, this wasn't clients of mine, but I definitely saw people all over LinkedIn where I was at that time. Mostly now I'm on Instagram and YouTube and doing my podcast, but I saw a lot of people who were like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm doing the leap. I'm taking the jump. I'm doing all the things. And then they can't hold it. And so they end up going back to corporate, right? And of course, they're not happy there and they yo-yo back and forth a lot. And I've talked a lot about this in a lot of my content, this yo-yoing back and forth between old reality and new reality. What you need to understand is that in the old paradigm, in the lower frequencies, in the old frequencies, the old way, you were taught to follow a certain number of steps. You were taught this is how life goes, right? And everybody around you was doing it. And your family was doing it. And you could see lots of proof of how it was going to go. Like you had a certain level of certainty just by looking around you that what you were doing was going to work. That did not require you to reclaim your power, nor did it require you to really regulate your nervous system. Because all you had to do was look around for validation, for confirmation, for everybody around you who was doing it. So you didn't ever have to regulate yourself. You didn't ever have to sit in the discomfort of uncertainty for very long. You may have for little bits of time, but wow, it wouldn't take long. If you looked around, you could see somebody else doing what you're doing, exactly how you're doing it. And in fact, that's what we were taught. If you don't know what you're doing, find somebody who's doing it and follow that pattern. That's what we were taught. That required no reclamation of your power. It required no nervous system regulation because you're just following a pattern. Nothing's really changing, right? Now, if you want to live that soul-aligned life, that soul-led life, career and professional and personal, all the things, right? All your relationships, everything. And it's truly soul-led. That means that there is not one person, not one single solitary other person on the planet who is going to do it exactly like you. That's what that means. You have a very unique blueprint, your soul blueprint, that is not like anybody else's. So what does that mean? That means it's going to require you to take steps, to do things, and you will look around and you will see nobody else doing it the same way. You will see nobody else who's done it and had it succeed for them in that way. You won't see any of that. And if you tell other people, they're probably not going to get it either because it's not part of either their soul blueprint, or they're looking at the programming and the conditioning. They're going, well, that's not going to work. That's not what we've been taught it's going to work. So the reason why reclaiming your power, your nervous system regulation is so important is because you're going off path. You are going off the programming. And the minute you go off the programming, all your doubts, all your fears, all your uncertainty, of course, are going to come in. If your entire life has been like, when you think about it, and I want you to really sit with this, like before you were even born, your life was laid out for you based on programming, the family you were born in, like really. And most people have not deviated from that path, right? Until the moment when I started to reclaim my power, I did exactly what I was supposed to do based on my family and everything else, right? I went to school, I became an accountant, I got married, I had kids, like I did everything I was supposed to, right? That's what most of us did. But to actually start creating your own path, listening to your soul, you are going off all of the programming, which is beautiful, which is amazing, but we underestimate what it's going to take. It's going to take you being able to hold yourself through the changes. So what is reclaiming your power? Reclaiming your power is when you stop looking to the outside world and you look inward. Okay? This is everything, absolutely everything I teach. I don't want you doing it my way. I don't want you doing it anybody else's way. I don't want to tell you what to do. I am sharing the operating system and how you create when you want to live that soul aligned life. That's what I do. But I don't tell you to do it this way, that way, the other way, right? Because your way is unique to you. So when you start reclaiming your power, is you can see the conditioning but you choose something different. So I'm going to give you a few examples of what that can look like. So reclaiming your power essentially is choosing you. It is choosing your path. It is choosing what you want, choosing what you desire, and not worrying about what everybody else thinks of you, not looking for validation, not looking for all those things, right? But understand that there are different levels to this. Okay. Now, most people want the big step. Like I said, in 2020, 2021, 22, a lot of people left corporate. They're like, oh, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to listen to what I know I'm supposed to do. Right. And that's beautiful. But that's a really big step in listening to your soul. Okay. Listening to your alignment and following your alignment. But there's levels to reclaiming your power. And I love to compare this to exercise. I use this analogy a lot because it is so powerful. So doing something like just like off the cuff, I'm going to leave corporate, I'm going to start a soul aligned business when you've never reclaimed your power is like going to the gym when you've never been to the gym before, you've never lifted a weight in your life, walking into that gym and wanting to pick up that 100-pound dumbbell and doing reps with it and thinking you're going to be successful. That's exactly what it's like. And nobody would do that. Nobody would walk into a gym and just pick up that 100-pound weight and, think it's going to work. Yet we do things, big steps that are in alignment with us without ever having done the reps. Reclaiming your power is about doing reps. Because if you think about it, now, if you were able to pick up that 100-pound weight, which a lot of people can, right, without doing any kind of reps, you'd be able to pick it up, say, you wouldn't be able to hold it for very long. You wouldn't be able to stand there for 10 minutes probably and hold it. You wouldn't be able to do reps. And even if you tried, you would either drop it or you would hurt yourself. That's what happens when we try to reclaim our power too fast, too big, too much, too soon. It's like you're not ready for it because you haven't done the reps. So what happens is when you do the reps in reclaiming your power is you also learn how to stabilize and regulate your nervous system. This is why it is so important that when you reclaim your power, you don't start with that 100-pound weight and go all in gangbusters, because your nervous system has not needed to know how to regulate itself at the level that is required, right? Because remember, the old system, you didn't have to have a very much a regulated nervous system because you were just following the path. It's like, well, whatever, I'll just follow along. You didn't need the level of a regulated nervous system like you do when you follow your soul. And one of the key ways that you create that regulated nervous system is you reclaim your power in little itty bitty steps. Now, I'm going to give you examples of those little itty bitty steps. Before I say this, I want to really emphasize that you don't get to skip these steps, okay? It's really important. We've been taught in this 3D world that it's the big things that make a difference. When you understand energy, you understand it's the little things built up over time, okay? So what does reclaiming your power look like in the small, tiny 10-pound reps? Okay. So it's the moment when, say, you are talking to your partner or a friend and you're thinking something, they're irritating you, they're bothering you, they're not showing up the way you need them to. There's something that's not right in the relationship and you've been stuffing it down for frickin' years. It's the moment when you stop and you say, you know what? We need to have a conversation here. We need to talk about this. Something's not right here for me. And you speak your truth, not concerned with how they're going to respond, not concerned with if they're going to agree with you, not concerned with whether, they're going to stay with you, whether the relationship's going to last or not. It's being able to speak your truth, knowing that you being able to speak your truth is the most important thing ever. Okay? Now, I'm not saying you be cruel. I'm not saying you be, jerk. Okay? And I don't think I should need to say that. But it's understanding that you being able to speak your truth and be your true, authentic self and be okay with wherever that goes, wherever it needs to go. That person may listen to you and go, oh my gosh, I wish you would have told me sooner. I could have changed some of the things I'm doing. Or that person go, who the hell do you think you are? You don't know how it's going to go. But reclaiming your power is when you put yourself first. This world taught you that was selfish. The problem is when we put others first in any way, shape, or capacity is our cup runs out. Now, what we have on this planet right now is a bunch of kind-hearted, conscious people with empty cups because they haven't been doing the thing. And even just like not conscious people. We have so many people on this planet right now who are running around with empty cups, trying to give more, trying to do more, trying to, it's like, no, it's not working. You must fill your cup first, and then you give from overflow. That's what the new paradigm is about. You can't keep giving when you don't have enough. And a lot of what giving is not over giving to have people like you, not over giving to avoid conflict, all these things that we do. And it's going to look very different based on your life. Like, I don't know where your points are, where you're not reclaiming your power. I have no idea. For most people, it's somewhere in their relationships for sure, whether it's their family or their friends or their coworkers. Relationships are often a really big one. And that's one of the ones that people get triggered the most because, like, oh my God, what if somebody's not around me, blah, 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 right? But here's the thing. If you can't reclaim your power in just speaking to a person in your life and be able to hold yourself, be able to hold your truth, to stay aligned and stay regulated, how do you ever think you're going to be able to do it something big? Because if you are listening to your soul, it's not going to make sense to anybody else. You cannot create in these new frequencies and need validation. Can't. If you get it, great. Bonus. But you see, as I said earlier, your unique soul blueprint is unique to you. And this is why I say relationships are one of the biggest ones, but it could be a bunch of different things. Is that you not speaking up just when you're out in public? Like, I'm gonna give you a silly one of mine, okay? And it's like, these can be really, really small. And here's the thing, the old paradigm taught you that these little things don't matter. And we use things to rationalize in our brain, right? So I'm gonna give you an example. So something I had to work through in the last couple of years, and it is gonna sound ridiculous, okay? It's gonna sound completely ridiculous, is if I'm out in traffic, like I would say I don't want to say assertive driver, but like like I like to drive fast and that kind of thing, right? Like I'm okay at driving, right? And I will let people in when I feel it's aligned, kind of thing, right? Like, I don't let everybody in, but there's certain circumstances, yeah, I'm gonna let people in, right? It's kind of it's a balance thing with me. But what I noticed about myself, if somebody is really aggressive on the road, I will just let them in. I'm like, or I'll let them do what they want to do. Like, I'm like, it's just, it's not worth it, right? And I drive a car that's low to the ground. So I've got like a big SUV or a big pickup truck or something. I'm just like, you know what? You do your thing. And then one day I'm like, hold on a second here. Why am I letting that person just run rickshaw over me just to avoid like being uncomfortable, right? Just avoid having somebody being annoyed with me on the road, or just avoid any kind of discomfort. Like, why do I keep just allowing that person? And of course, what happened was when I was reclaiming this part of myself, like reclaiming my power in this aspect, everybody kept cutting me off or doing like just awful things in traffic, of course. And I go, okay, you're trying to get me to learn this. I've got to learn to not like put myself back and just let them go, let them go, let them do their thing, let them go first, right? And of course, being safe and all of this, like, of course. But there was about 3 times in a row, and I've shared these on here because they were wild, where I would have normally let somebody in, or I would have normally gone out of my way to avoid conflict with somebody who's being like really aggressive. And I had a few instances where I was yelled at, I was honked at. Like it was like people were really annoyed with me. And I say people, was actually men every single time, who got very aggressive with me on the road just because I didn't let them in when they were doing something that was either like illegal or like something like that. And it's not comfortable. It is not comfortable at all being yelled at in traffic, just like it's not comfortable talking to that person, or it's not comfortable doing this. Reclaiming your power in the moment when you're doing it is not comfortable. It could be the most uncomfortable thing. So it's also easy to go, well, it's not that big of a deal. Why bother doing it? It's not going to change anything. Let me tell you, what happens when you do that is you learn how to regulate yourself in that time. You have to. You have to. And that's what happens in those moments. So when I have somebody yelling at me in traffic, I'm just like, oh, well, it's fine. Because it is fine. And if somebody, you share your truth with somebody and they don't like it, you need to, in that moment, regulating your nervous system, go, it's okay if they don't like it. And we need to do this. You need to do this in these little tiny moments, because in those moments, you learn how to regulate yourself. And then what happens is life will keep showing you where you're giving away your power. It will keep showing you over and over and over again. You might think to yourself, I'm not giving away my power that much. Let me tell you, this is from personal experience. I have reclaimed my power in so many ways. Like I've been doing this work for years, but there still are times when I'm like, damn, look at that. Look at that. And our human mind will tell us a fun story about what's really going on. Like me in that instance of traffic. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to get there 3 seconds later, right? That's what the human mind will say. But what we have to understand with everything, this is what I teach, it's so important, is you have to understand the energetics behind it. So by me saying, I'm only a few seconds late. Okay, that's true. In the 3D reality, in the logistical world that we live in, that is truth. Truth. However, the energetics are, I can let him go first. It's okay. I want to avoid conflict. Okay, that's not good. Letting him go first. His time is more important than mine. I can just go around him. It's okay. It's fine. And I say him because it was always men in the situation. So it's understanding the energetics behind it. And so when you look at the energetics, you have to say to yourself, is it okay? Do I always want to acquiesce to other people? Even if they're being aggressive, even if they're being jerks? That's giving my power away. Is my time more or less important than his? Well, to me, my time is more important. I'm sure to him, his is too. But 3 seconds is 3 seconds. Because if you do that one place, you do it everywhere. And that's the thing. It's just showing you your patterns. It's showing you. I back down when somebody's too aggressive. My time isn't as important if somebody's being aggressive or whatever it is. And where you do it's one place, you do it absolutely freaking everywhere. So if you think about it, 3 seconds here, 10 seconds here, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here. Next thing you know, an hour of your day, every day is gone because you keep acquiescing. Not saying you, this was me in my life, right? It's always the energetics behind things. So don't let your logical mind convince you, it's not that big of a deal. It's not a big deal. Damn straight it's a big deal, because the energetics behind it is determining your entire reality. And what you do in those moments is you learn to regulate. You learn, but you've got to teach yourself. This is why clients work with me longer term, is we do a lot of this work, and we can really collapse a lot of time because they reclaim their power quite quickly, right? But you have to be able to regulate yourself in those times. I remember I shared something on social media that happened to me last summer, which was a huge one. I was sitting outside a coffee shop here in Vancouver, like having my coffee, and I had my journal on my phone and everything. And it was a small little bistro table, just basically it's just kind of barely big enough for two people, right? And I was sitting outside. It was a gorgeous day in a beautiful neighborhood. It was very busy. And this man walked up to me and said, "Do you mind if I join you?" And I looked up at him and I was like, I had my journal, I had the whole table. Like I was like, "No, I don't want you joining me," in my head. But I said out loud, I don't even remember what I said right now. I said something to the effect of, I said, "I'd prefer you didn't." And I mean, I was kind, but I said, "I'd prefer you didn't." Like, spoke my truth. I didn't want him standing there. I didn't want him next to me. I didn't want him sitting and sharing my table. I didn't want him in my space. And the man went haywire on me. Like he started calling me names. He started screaming at me. He was like pushing the chairs at my table. Like he went haywire. This was me reclaiming my power. As a woman, most women are taught to acquiesce to men, right? And there's obviously a real physical safety thing here, right? Of course there is. And so we are conditioned to just, men want, they want in my space, I allow them in my space, right? But I'm like, I didn't want him. And he went completely haywire on me. And I sat there and I just looked at him and I was so regulated. Like I don't even think my heartbeat went up. Like I was just looking at this man going, and I just looked at him and I said, "Do I need to call the police?" I wouldn't have been able to do that years ago. First of all, I would not have said no to him. I would have let him sit there and then I would have quietly gotten up 5 minutes later, pretending I was done. Right? How many women would do that in that space? Majority. But I was so regulated, so flippin' regulated. So this is what this is about. So if you can't sit there in that moment like me, if I couldn't have sat there, how do I ever expect to take bigger leaps? You can't. You can't do 100-pound reps if you're not doing the 5 and the 20-pound reps. You have to do them because in that time is when you learn to regulate. So when you take the big steps, when you get the nudges to do something, you can take the step and you can stay solid and you can stay firm and you can stay certain. This is what this work is about, because there isn't going to be everyone around you clapping and cheering you on. What I also want to say before I wrap this up, because this is so important, and I'm glad I remembered this before I ended this video, because it's so important. In the moments, I'm actually getting emotional. In the moments where you're reclaiming your power, like I said, it's uncomfortable. Okay, it is uncomfortable because you're doing something you've never done before, ever. Chances are, right? It's uncomfortable, but there is no other feeling like it in the world afterwards. When you have hidden your truth, when you have shrunk yourself, when you have done everything to fit in, when this world has taught all of us to do that, when you start standing in your truth and speaking your truth and standing up for yourself and choosing yourself, which is all what reclaiming your power is, there is no other feeling like it in the world. There isn't. I can't tell you how many times, and these are the moments that nobody knows about. Like that man in that cafe, like they had no idea what it took for me to get to a place where I could stand there and have a man physically come at me and just sit there cool as a cucumber. But even to say no to him in the first place. So when you have that conversation with that person, even if it doesn't go the way you wanted it to, or you'd hoped it would, what lasts truly is the part of you that you keep giving away every time you don't speak your truth. So when you do speak your truth, what happens is you pull back pieces of your soul and you start to feel more complete and you start to feel more whole than you ever have in your life. And you become solid and you become certain and you don't become this I'm seeing a visual like of a grass in the wind. Wind comes, you go this way, wind comes, you go that way. You're just being blown around constantly like a tall, like reed grass. There's no other feeling like it in the world. And when you have those moments where you're reclaiming your power, there may not be a single soul in this world that knows what it took for you to do that. But you do. You do. And because of that, you will never be the same person ever again. All right, beautiful soul. I'm going to end this video here. Please share your comments, as I said, like, subscribe, do all the things. All right, take care, and I will talk to you soon.